Hello and welcome. I'm Professor Paul Schock, and I'm speaking for myself and Professor Dutta about Introduction Electronic Instrumentation, ENGR 2300. I want to introduce you to the course and talk about the types of things that we're going to be doing this semester with this. And if I go ahead and try and advance this. This is a flipped class. Okay, by that I mean you are expected to prepare by watching videos before each class. The advantage of this that leaves the class time, which is of the greatest value, is you get more interaction with the teaching staff, as professors and the TAs. Okay. The videos you're going to watch, most of them have been done by Professor Connor. Some of the material coverage is correct. Some of the details may be out of date, such as which instrumentation board or even simulation software and things like that. And I really don't apologize for that. The change in the instrumentation board is something that'll happen every so often, and it's going to happen to you in your careers too. Same changing software it uses is going to change. But as long as the concepts are set, which they are, this will be very much the same. And again, I'll just mention, I will be hedging some things here because we happen to be doing it when most people are online and not in person. But again, I keep most of it to be very much the same for the course for any semester. Okay. So to do this, and I want to talk about the materials that we're going to use. And again, this is a video you should be watching before the first class, that flipped nature of the course. Right, and you should have gotten a notice on this too. I want to identify key course materials, where to find them, and again, what we expect, and everything from quizzes to dates and things like that. So with that, let me just sort of move on. Where is the online contact for electronic instrumentation? We have a public website where we have just a short name for it. It actually links to the different courses each semester, but this is public. Anyone can use this link. If you get done with this course and you're doing something in Capstone and you want to look at it, you can come back. It'll link you to the existing semester usually. But you're still going to be able to use this. And we have a lot of stuff up there. In fact, maybe it's too much stuff in some sense, but it's there, it's useful, and it's reasonably well organized. We will be using LMS, so you should be used to that by now. Your homework and grades are in there. There will also, any WebEx meetings that we do, that we record, will be there. You'll have access to those as videos, and things like that. We will be using Piazza for notes and discussions. Okay, and I'll go into these each. Also, we'll be using Gradescope for the submission of your reports. Now, just to show you, if I just click on the link for EI. Let me make this a bit bigger. Okay, so all I did was click on the link. I get into it, and there's a lot of material here. I'm going to go through this, but this is the front page. And as it says here, this is very much true as I'm presenting it. This is material that's mostly from the fall of 2020. It'll be updated, and every semester will be the same thing. We don't even know who our TAs are at this point. So there are things on here that we posted before we know the details. And, it's just the way it works. And hopefully by the first day of class, we'll have everything updated. Okay. So, and did I make this too big? If I go back, LMS, I think you know LMS, and see if this actually links me to my right course. It is probably asking me to log in. No, it got me there. Okay, so I was already logged in. Courses for me, and again, just because of the timing, I got to go to upcoming courses and electronic instrumentation, just to give you an idea of what the LMS site will look like. Okay, and so here again, this will actually link back to our public website. Here are from the fall the parts that were recorded, information about projects, quiz. Again, most of this actually links back to the public site. Okay. While I'm here, if I'm just going to be real quick, we will be giving you homeworks from LMS. It's going to be under assessments. So if you come in and it looks something like this, you want to expand the course assessments. And if I go in here, you can see these homeworks are listed. And again, let me just mention while I'm here, since I'm on the site, homework 1, and I'll show you on the calendar when it's due. You'll be able to see that now, right? That runs up until, and I just tell you, it's February 3rd when homework 1 is due for the spring of 21 semester. After that is due, if you did not submit it, or if you didn't do well, you can do a late version for 70% of the credit. This will be up for 3 days. After that, if you did not do well on either of these, you can do a very late version. It'll be open after homework 1 late closes, and it'll be open until the end of the semester. You do not get a penalty if you do homework 1 very late after you've done homework 1. Whichever has the highest score, that is the one that counts. So you will see these homework 1 late and homework 1 very late pop up. Right now, you should only be seeing homework 1. Okay. So again, let me go back to that, and let me go back to the slides. Okay. So I presented to you a little bit about the fact that we have everything on the public website. Okay, so I want to spend some time just doing this. Staff is there. Okay, so when I went in the first time I came in, I was actually just up here. The staff is just on the main page. So you can see the present professors. The TAs have not been assigned right now. So these are TAs from a previous semester. That's going to be standard. We don't get those information until pretty much when classes get started. Okay. The schedule for the classes is here. And in fact, if I just go back on this, if I go to, that's not what I want to do. I want to go back to here. The next thing I want to mention was the schedule. Okay. It's just taking me to that same page, lower down on that page. So we have the lab sections listed on here. Okay. If I go back again, announcements, we're going to do most of our announcements on Piazza. So we do have on the main page, we do have an announcement slide spot. So a little bit about printers. Most of you will not be in the classroom this semester, so printers don't matter that much. But we can have things in here. And so it's one spot to look at. And again, it's just simply at the bottom of that very first page, the page you come into. And that's not what I want to do. I'm going to go back here. Syllabus. Okay, the syllabus I can get to from here. I can get to it. So it's just asking me permission on that because it's open in a PDF. And it's hidden it from me, so I won't worry about that at this point. It's just below my screen. So let me go back. If I just go back to the course site itself, and if I just do staff or any of these other, they can go back to this course site itself. Syllabus is here, and I think this one will actually show it to me. Okay. Again, this will be updated, so don't worry about the details right now. Just you know it's available to you. And again, right at the top of the page, you can get to the syllabus. Right? I think I'm going to stay on this page rather than the PowerPoint slide. Calendar. This is correct as best I know. Okay? I sometimes make mistakes on dates, but for this semester, so for any semester, you'll be able to link to the calendar and see it. For the spring of 2021, we actually have 3 sections. Section 1 and 2 are on a Monday, Thursday schedule. Section 3 is on a Tuesday, Friday. So, you know, whichever section you're in, you would follow either the green or the violet as you go through this. Okay. Homeworks have common dates. Quizzes have common dates. And while I'm here, while I'm on the calendar, let me just mention to you that if I click on this, it actually takes you, it will be taking you to this video once I have this video posted. What it's presently doing is taking you to an older version of this video, right? So what you're expected to do, I go back to the calendar. is you are expected for class 1. We expect you to have watched this introduction video. There's also a class 1 video. Okay. So it is here, it is a YouTube. Okay. I'm not going to run it right now, but we expect you to go through that. And that's, again, flipped class. You do this before the class. There's also information you're going to work on experiment 1 on the first day of class. For experiment 1, there are videos that you also want to watch. You don't need to do all of these for the first day, but if you look at the calendar quickly, you see experiment 1 is sort of over 3 days. It's class 1, class 2, class 3. Over that period, you should be watching those. And in fact, we say you're going to work together in groupings, and those details will come back to you on when the classes start. We expect at least one person in your group to watch all those videos. Okay? They cover the material, and they're useful. And it's the stuff we're going to quiz you on and things like that. So the calendar has a lot of information on it as to where you want to go, what you want to see before you come in, right? If I also now go back, the calendar listed the videos, but it said you're going to do experiment 1. It didn't actually tell you what experiment 1 is. This link here, links by experiment. This is going to be a biggie that you're going to use a lot. Okay, so if I go links by experiment, up here you can see there are 8 experiments, 4 projects in the course, okay, that you'll be doing. If I click on experiment 1, all it really did was just scroll down that page for me. I was just here. If I scroll down, I get to experiment 1. But if I look at this, this is the actual document for experiment 1. Okay, here it is. I can look at it, okay, and go through. And so the information's there. There's a lot of detail on these experiments, so you can see what's going on. So you can get to that. Okay. I'll actually mention why there's 2 experiment 1s here in a second. There's also supporting information down here. Okay. So when you're doing experiment 1, look at what's available to you on this, right? Going along with doing experiment 1, there's some general information. So if I click on this, it's actually just going to take me, this is the general information right here. So if I just click on general information, just scroll me down a little bit. In this course, you're going to have an instrumentation board, right? It's either going to be the AD-ALM 2000, which we call the M2K, or the or the Analog Discovery 2. If I just look quick at the M2K, okay, so this is from Analog Devices. This is what it looks like. There's information about it here. There's lots of documentation. There's unlimited documentation on this. It's everything is open source in here. If you want to control this with MATLAB or other things, that's all options you can do. We're going to use, and I'll just mention it real quick, a piece of software called Scopy. So if you're using the AD-ALM 2000 or M2K, okay, you want to know about it, and you're going to want to download software to use. Okay. And again, here it is, easy to do. You want to go ahead and do it. Let me mention about Scopy, though. If you're using an M2K that was bought before September of 2020, the latest versions of Scopy will require you to do a firmware update of the M2K. Not a big deal. It steps you through it. I've done it on 2 boards, and it pretty much works the way they say it'll work. I'll try to put up a document on exactly what I went through. Okay. So you need an instrumentation board. It could be the M2K. You need Scopy to go with that. Okay. If instead you have the Analog Discovery, Analog Discovery is also a good board. Not open source, but very useful and just as good. Okay. There is an analog, this is Analog Discovery 2. There is an Analog Discovery that hasn't been made for, I think, 3 years now. I prefer the Analog Discovery 2. If someone has an Analog Discovery, let us know, because there's a couple times where the experiments are not going to quite match with what you're trying to do, but everything's still doable. So Analog Discovery 2 or the M2K, and Analog Discovery 2 has a software package called Waveforms. So Waveform software information and download. Okay, so depending on which board you have, you get you have to get the software to run that board. Okay. And again, this was under the links by experiment page. If I go back, links by experiment, and it's right here near the top. Since I'm here, let me go and mention, you will be working with a kit of parts. Okay. If you're getting one now, it will be this one. Right? It could be sold by Digilent with the Analog Discovery, but it'll be the same kit. There is an older version of the Digilent kit of parts, which we can work with, but this is what I expect most of you have. The nice thing about this page I just went to is it does actually give you pictures of the parts. So when you get to, you're trying to, I tell you, we want to use an OP27 op amp. Okay, here's the picture, here's the data sheet. It's here. Easy to get to, easy to find. Proto board, wires, speakers, thermistor. These are all things you're going to use. And also, let me just spin down here a little bit. There's a nice thing that Analog Devices stuck in here is if you try and look at some of these parts, this part looks a lot like this part, looks a lot like this part. I actually have a magnifying glass with a light that I use, and you can read part numbers on these things, but boy, and that's actually just a wrong picture in there, but that's okay. Because that was the picture of a 914, and this is not a 914, but it doesn't matter to me. They look the same. You can read things on them, but there's also a little test circuit here, and we will expect you to use that a bit later. That's not something you need right away. Okay? But the list of parts are here. There's capacitors, there's resistors. I look at the resistor list here. So on and so forth. I do recommend a magnifying glass of some sort if you can get it. Okay. So I looked at the general information up here. The next piece that comes in is LT-SPICE. LT-SPICE is how we're going to simulate circuits. Okay. There will be references throughout our system to something called Capture and PSpice. Okay. We have moved away from that. We're not going to clean up all the references simply because there's so many of them. They're both going to be simulation software, and we will tell you how to do things in LT-SPICE. So I don't have to clean up every single reference that's in there, and I won't. LT-SPICE, we will be giving you information within the experiment, and I can go back to experiment 1 and show you that, but I don't think I need to take the time. There is a getting started guide, and this is what Analog Devices has been doing, and they make you just approve things. Here's their getting started guide. It's 53 pages that covers a lot of things that we don't use. So if you take a look, what I expect you to look at, if I back up 2 pages here, certain pages in there are very useful. Okay. We will, in some way, shape, or form, repeat that information through the semester, but it's really great if you look at this. And let me mention this now because I'll forget later. There is some shortcuts that really do save you some time. So I have to accept again, go in. Second page of this one. This is a great time saver. I actually have it taped up on the cabinet in front of me so I can just look up from where I'm doing this talk right now and I can see this. Okay? It's useful. What I'm not a Mac user, sorry that I'm not, but you know, my wife is. I have not played with Macs on it, so I'm telling you to do things right click in here. I'm not quite sure all the ways you do it with a Mac. There is information out there. Students have certainly been using Macs to run LT-SPICE. So there is this sheet in here, but I don't think this is all inclusive. I think as a Mac user, you probably need a little bit more information than what this has, but at least it's a start. And if people have questions, I'm going to mention that we're going to use Piazza. I recommend that you post things on Piazza as you need to. I'll also say that Professor Hamid teaches another course. He did a great video on introduction to LT-SPICE. And so I have it linked here and very useful. I recommend that you seriously consider using this. Okay, so links by experiments, general information. There's information about when we write reports, but we can get back to that a bit later. Okay. Quizzes. So information about quizzes, there's a lot here. And so you can see here, we did not post the fall quiz. That's because there's actually issues we had. We probably won't post it. But there are other quizzes here. For this is quiz 1 and topic information on here. Quiz 2, quiz 3. And I will tell you now, but it will be forgotten. Doesn't matter. We'll come back to it. If I go back to the schedule, if I talk about it here, 3 quizzes, right? And here's the dates for the quizzes. There is an optional quiz during finals week that will replace the lowest grade. And the same sort of thing that if this becomes the lowest grade, it doesn't count, right? So it replaces the lowest grade. So we'll do 3 quizzes during the semester. These will each be unit quizzes. Quiz X, the optional quiz, it will be comprehensive and optional. So we'll come back to that when we need to. And again, this was just, the schedule was just sitting on the main page, the one you come into when you do this. Okay, so there's information about quizzes. Lectures, this is a listing of those videos. When it says lectures, it's really the videos. So before each class, you're supposed to, this is the before video, the one that I'm recording right now. This is the class 1 video, so it actually talks about experiment 1 and has information about it. So those 2 you're supposed to watch before class 1. And then for each of the other classes, you go down the list and there's something to watch, right? Within each experiment, okay, again, I showed this before, there are videos for each experiment, right? There are also lots of good general purpose videos in there. Okay. So there's some on the analog discovery. There's none down here on the M2K. I really put them up on the first page more than down here. We'll probably add some down here. Okay. And you can see PSpice, again, we're going to use LT Spice. The information in there is still useful on these things. But then you get to more standard background things, transfer functions, transformer properties, inductance, Thevenin equivalent, voltage dividers. These are all topics that we're going to have in the course. You're going to be responsible for. There are videos there. I didn't do them, so I can say they're quite well done. And again, then we get into the experiments, and we do have projects. Again, we'll worry about projects as we get to it. Quiz review, there's some information in there. Okay, so we used to have 4 quizzes plus the optional final. We now have 3. So quiz 3 now covers what was previously quiz 3 and quiz 4. Again, little details, probably more than you need to worry about. OpenShop is not yet set. So if I go to OpenShop, this takes me to the bottom of that same page. You can see the section times are listed here. The green are when we had OpenShop previously. We will update that and you'll see it. Most of our OpenShop during the pandemic is online. We'll use WebEx to do that. And so you'll have people available to talk to about questions and problems and things like that. We did last semester have some in-person open shops, so if you're allowed on campus, if you can be in person, there were some opportunities to come in. So just mention that quickly. That was up here too. Attendance and participation grade, still a little bit of work in progress, so I'll somewhat leave that for this point. And if I go back to the PowerPoint LMS, okay, I've already taken to LMS. I'm not sure I really need to go to it again. And let me actually just try to go back to the previous one so I don't have to, this is the one I was in before. And, if I go up to the course, when it wants to behave, we'll link back to the syllabus. So it'll take you back to the same place. These are the previous ones. We'll may just leave them up there. They're not completely useless. So we'll leave that there. Homepage. Some people had trouble getting the video this way, so we had it on the media site. The same videos were listed in here if this wants to come up. What do you know? I have to reconnect that. Okay, so that's something I need to do. So that's not doing anything right now. But again, most of this will actually link you back to the general course website. Okay. And you're seeing, of course, a view where I have some things visible that you won't see right now because I'm doing it from my view on this. Okay. So jump back here. YouTube. So Professor Connor does have a YouTube channel up there, and you can do searching on. I have not been using that much because I really go to the lectures and choose what I want to see from here. Okay. But if you wanted to search, it's searchable. So his YouTube channel is useful. Piazza, and let's see where this one takes me right now. If it takes me to the present one or to a previous one. No, that's strange. That should not be that screen. Oh, I'm just on the wrong window. So electronic invitation fall. Anyway, I will make sure that that link is working correctly for you. This is what you should come up with. You will be invited to this. And I am sorry about this red box. I do not recommend you pay them anything unless this box drives you insane, in which case you can consider paying them. I don't plan on paying them. So when you see my screen, you will see this box up. We are pushing for RPI to get a campus license. Okay. And within this, if I just look at the notes that are here, Professor Dutta and I have our office hours listed here. We have them also listed on the course page. Right? There's some information. Welcome to Piazza. I just want to say, in here you can post questions, comments, and things like that, and you can see everyone else's. Unless you make yours, you can. If you want to make yours private to the instructors, you can do that. Right? But if you post it so everyone else can see, anyone can answer. So there are times where it's 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. my time, and I'm not looking at this, but other students may be looking, TAs may be looking, and people can answer questions. So a lot of times it's a question of, wait, this didn't work, or where was this posted? And people can answer it real quick, real good. And there's lots of good discussions come into here. So we will tend to put announcements here, and I really want to encourage you to use this. I will respond to this much better than I would emails. Emails get lost for me. I imagine they do for you. I just get too many in a day. That this is where I can come back and look at course topics, and it'll tell me any questions, notes that I have not, postings that I have not actually looked at. Okay, so we will use Piazza a lot. I recommend you get used to it. I recommend when you get invited that you accept that invite. Right? So we will be using Piazza quite a bit. Okay. I didn't put Gradescope up here, but you will be using Gradescope to submit your reports. It will be linked from LMS, and you'll also be listed in there. So you'll have that too. Okay. So if I move on, so what I would just put this up for a short while, and you can pause if you want, but these are things that you could go back and look at and find out the answer to these types of questions because of the things that I just showed you. And you have opportunities there. So while I'm still here, let me just go through. I had my checklist, which I forgot to look at, as to what I wanted to mention to you on here. And again, I'm just looking at it, that some things obviously are not updated. I will not necessarily update this particular presentation every semester, so some things will definitely get out of date, but the links and where and how will all be valid, and that's what we expect you to do. Course calendar, experiments. Oh, yes, one thing. If I go back to, let me just back up here. And it doesn't matter what I take. Let me do experiment projects. One of the things I want to do, if I look at experiment 1, what's the link? Again, you see there's 2 versions of experiment 1. Okay. And it depends on which board you're using. You do the same things, it's just some things are presented a little bit different. So let me just jump into the M2K version of this. And again, we put a lot of detail in here. So we do expect someone to read every part of this. So you want to work with some people in a group. Maybe you don't read every part, but it's here. Most of the questions we get are here. So maybe it's overkill in that sense, but it's here. Some important things: require reading. Being in your lab, at least one team member must have read over and generally acquainted with this document, okay, and other required materials. That's the videos. Okay, so work this out as to who does what and the people you're working with. But we don't want to have the same question asked 100 times when it happens to be on page 3 of this document. You will do hand-drawn schematics. Okay, so we find this actually saves us time and you have an understanding. For some reason, when you build or simulate a circuit after you've done the hand-drawn drawing, it just works better. Can't quite understand it, but got a couple of years experience on this. So this will actually be part of your report. You will take, and if I just scroll down, there'll be schematics down here. It's actually a while before we get to them, but there's some schematics in here, and the ones you actually build are like this. You will draw this again by hand, okay? And you'll submit it with your report. So that's what it says there, and that's what we mean. And believe me or not, it is a time saver. So then here it gives some background as to what we can do with the instrumentation board, what the software looks like. And again, if you have the Analog Discovery 2, the other document is going to do this to you. The wires that come off of these instrumentation boards, we're lucky both of these instrumentation boards have the exact same wiring, same colors. The connectors are slightly different, but it's still the same wiring, same functionality in that sense. So in that sense, the diagram for the Analog Discovery 2 doesn't look much different than this. And I could have used either one, and it would have been fine. And even, so details on how do you make the software work. If you go to print this, sorry about all the black. Other things I could change to white backgrounds, that I could not. And you go through this, and again, lots of details. If you follow this and read it, sometimes it's not easy to read it all, but read it. Okay. Then part C is going to be Introduction to LT Spice. So let me say for the first class, if you don't have an instrumentation board for the first class, that's fine. But have LT Spice installed, because you can start on the first class, you can start with part C. And if not, if you haven't done that, we will tell you in the first class. Well, the first thing you do is install LT Spice, and we get started on it. Okay. So again, LT Spice is a simulation software where we're going to model circuits. So if I look down here, here's an example of a circuit you're going to build in the simulation software. And here's the modeling that occurs. So this is what voltage is as a function of time for this simulation. Okay. Lots of details in there. And clearly something got messed up with my diagram. So I will go back and try and correct that. Interesting. Not even sure quite how that happened. But anyway, information, how you get in there, how you do things. Get lots of details going in. What I need to show you, though, is there's a checklist saying what you have to make sure you give us in your report. Okay? And I'm going to be generous in calling this a report. It's more of a technical document listing the things you did and answering questions. It's not really a report. The projects have reports, but the experiment, you more document your work. And so there's this checklist in here. It reminds you, you better have the hand-drawn circuit diagram. Okay. There's talk about responsibilities. And again, this could possibly change a little bit in it. Get to this page here. Okay. This is the very last page of experiment 1. This is a checkoff sheet. Now we'll actually do the checkoffs online in basically a spreadsheet document. Versus if you're in class, we would actually sign this. We would ask you to show us this particular part of that experiment, and we would sign this, and that would be your documentation that you did it. So what you're going to do instead is, other than this, those of you who are in person, and that's the minority, you will get to this point, and you will have to have one of us check you off. And once we check you off, we'll put a check mark in a spreadsheet that you were checked off. But if I look at this, let me actually look at the LT Spice, because that's what you probably will start with, that you're going to build this circuit with some resistors. We're going to want to see the LT Spice software running. You're going to share your screen in WebEx and show us it running. Then we can actually tell you to change something or ask you questions about it as you do that. So part of the checkoff is not that you just show us plots that are on, in a Word document or something like that. You show us the active simulation here. Up here, you're going to build the circuit and use the instrumentation board. So up here, you're going to show us that working in an active sense, right? Not after it's done and you've posted plots into a document. You show it to us while it's running. Okay. We usually ask that you've also posted plots in your document because just too often you show us something running and those pictures disappear. So getting things posted into a document is often part of the process. But this last page of each experiment is important. And this is part of your points. If you do not give us this equivalent of this page, you will not get full credit. Okay. So if I now go back, and sorry about that shadow, it's supposed to go away. That's just telling me I'm sharing the screen. And go back to the last page here. Again, you can find these things. I hope I didn't take too long on doing this 36 minutes. I wanted to be under 30, but that's just tend to how I go. So again, welcome to Electronic Instrumentation. I expect to see you in the first class or Professor Dutta or other people in other semesters. Goodbye.